The day it happened, Lagos felt quieter than usual, like the city knew something had broken inside me. After months of hoping, praying, and imagining tiny fingers wrapped around mine, I lost my baby. The hospital walls felt cold, the nurses' voices distant. I lay there numb, staring at the ceiling, my body empty, my heart shattered. I hadn't even had the strength to tell anyone yet when my phone buzzed on the bedside table. I thought it might be a message from my mother, or maybe Cabello checking in. But when I picked it up, my chest tightened. Busy, my sister-in-law. She had posted about my baby on Facebook. Not just posted, she had written it like some breaking news headline, with crying emojis and hashtags, as if my pain was something for the world to consume. I scrolled down and saw people commenting, "So sorry, hun. God gives and takes. Be strong." Strangers, people I didn't even know, were reading about the most intimate, painful moment of my life. I wanted to scream, but no sound came out. I wanted to tell her to delete it, to keep my grief private, but my hands shook too much to type. My phone kept buzzing. More comments, more reaction, more pity. And all I could think was how busy had stolen this moment from me, the chance to grieve quietly, in my own way. Now, my pain belonged to the internet, and there was no taking it back. It started slowly, almost quietly, like a shadow following me. The first time I noticed it was when I stepped out to buy bread. My neighbour, Mama Grace, who usually greeted me with a loud "good morning," suddenly kept her head down, pretending to be busy arranging her tomatoes. I thought maybe she didn't see me. But then the man at the kiosk gave me that soft, heavy smile people give when they don't know what else to say. It was the smile people wear at funerals. By the time I reached the market, I could feel it everywhere. Eyes following me, lips whispering. I caught fragments of words. Shame. So sad. Beezy said. My skin burned. At work, it was worse. Normally, my desk was a place of noise and chatter, but now it felt like an island. People passed by without stopping. The ones who spoke did it in low voices, leaning too close, saying things like, "Be strong, Zinley," before hurrying away as if my sadness was contagious. I caught two colleagues glancing at their phones, looking at me, and then giggling. That's when I realized this wasn't just about pity. The news, my pain, my loss, it had traveled far beyond Facebook. Someone had taken Busy's post and dropped it into our community WhatsApp groups. And from there, it spread like wildfire. People I had never spoken to in my life were suddenly discussing me, not just my loss, but adding their own cruel twists, saying maybe I waited too long to have a child, maybe it was punishment, maybe God was teaching me a lesson. I read a few screenshots someone sent me, and my stomach turned. Words so sharp, they cut deeper than the loss itself. Even strangers in the street seemed to know me now. I went to buy vegetables, and the woman selling spinach stared at me with wide, sad eyes before slipping an extra bunch into my bag, whispering, "It's okay." But it didn't feel okay. It felt like the whole city was looking at me through a glass box, not as a woman, but as a tragedy. I stopped going out unless I had to. I stopped checking my phone. Every time I heard a notification, my chest tightened. The whispers, the pity, the fake sympathy, it wrapped around me like a heavy blanket I couldn't throw off. And Busy, she didn't even try to stop it. If anything, she seemed to enjoy the attention. Every time I saw her, she had this little smirk on her face, like she knew exactly what she had done. That was the moment I realized this wasn't just bad luck or careless gossip. This was deliberate. My pain had been turned into entertainment, and I was the main character in a story I never asked to be part of. I had rehearsed what I was going to say all morning. My hands shook as I typed the message to Busy, but then I deleted it. No, this needed to be face to face. I couldn't hide behind a screen while my life was being paraded in front of strangers. So I went to her house. She was in the garden, wearing her bright yellow dress, watering flowers as if nothing in the world was wrong. When she saw me, she smiled, that slow, fake smile that never reached her eyes. "I need to talk to you," I said, my voice low but tight. "About what?" she asked, tilting her head like she didn't already know. I took a deep breath. "The post, the one about my baby. Please take it down. This is private. My pain isn't for the world." She set the watering can down and crossed her arms, staring at me for a moment. Then she laughed. Not a soft, embarrassed laugh, but a loud, sharp one that made my stomach turn. "Oh, Zinle," she said. At least people are talking about you for once. The words hit me harder than a slap. For a moment I couldn't move. It was like the ground tilted under my feet. She wasn't sorry. She wasn't even pretending to be sorry. She was enjoying this. Is that what you wanted? Attention? I asked, my voice trembling now, not from fear, but from the heat of anger rising in my chest. She shrugged, still smirking. People share their lives online. I was just sharing yours. Don't be so sensitive. I stared at her, trying to make sense of the woman standing in front of me. This wasn't ignorance. This wasn't some accident or cultural misunderstanding. This was deliberate. Malice wearing a friendly face. She wanted me small. She wanted me to drown in shame while she stood there, dry and smiling. I felt my fists clench. Part of me wanted to scream, to throw her own words back at her, but I didn't. I just looked at her for a long time, memorizing her expression, the way her eyes glittered, the satisfaction in her lips curling upward. I wanted to remember it, because this was the moment everything shifted inside me. When I left her house, the air outside felt hotter, thicker, like the city itself was holding its breath. I walked slowly, but my mind was racing. The pain was still there, but something else was growing beside it, something sharper, colder. I didn't have a plan yet, but I knew one thing for sure. Busy thought she had won. She had no idea. It had been weeks since that day in Busy's garden, but her words still played in my head like a bad song I couldn't turn off. I tried to keep my distance, but in our family, distance was almost impossible. Sunday lunches, birthdays, and church gatherings meant I still had to see her, still had to feel her eyes on me. She walked around, like the queen of perfection, her hair always done, her dresses spotless, her smile wide enough to fool anyone who didn't know better. And beside her was Cabello, her perfect husband. Together, they looked like the picture of love. One late afternoon, I stopped by their house to drop off a file Cabello had left at work. The front door was slightly open, and as I stepped in, I heard voices from the living room. I almost called out, but something in Busy's tone made me pause. It wasn't the usual sweet, loud voice she used in public. It was low, sharp, almost panicked. "Cabello, I told you we can't keep sending that money like this," she hissed. His reply was quieter, but I could still hear the edge in it. "And I told you we have no choice. The school fees have to be paid." School fees? My brow furrowed. Their son was barely in preschool here in Lagos. Why would they be paying school fees in another city? Then Busy's voice rose, tense and accusing. "Do you know how much we've already spent this year? And now you're saying you have to visit again." My heart started to beat faster. Visit who? I took a step closer to the hallway, careful not to make a sound. Cabello sighed, a heavy sound full of frustration. "I'm not talking about this now. Just make sure no one finds out, especially her." "Her?" I leaned in, my hand resting against the wall, when I heard the faint scrape of a chair. I stepped back quickly before they could see me. My mind was spinning. School fees, another city, someone I wasn't supposed to know about. When Busy and Cabello came out moments later, their faces were composed, their smiles ready for show. "Oh, Zinhle," Busy said sweetly. "You should have called before coming." I smiled back, pretending nothing was wrong. But inside, something clicked. That conversation was more than a marital disagreement. It was a crack in their perfect picture. And cracks, well, cracks have a way of growing until the whole thing falls apart. As I left their house, the heat of the setting sun pressed against my back, but all I could feel was a new kind of energy rushing through me. I didn't have the full truth yet, but I knew one thing. Whatever they were hiding, it was big, and I was going to find it. I couldn't stop thinking about that phone call. The words school fees and another city stayed in my head like a puzzle I had to solve. I started paying more attention to Cabello. He often traveled for business, leaving Busy behind to show off her perfect life on social media. But now, I wondered if those trips were really for work. I didn't tell anyone my suspicions, not even my closest friend. Some secrets grow stronger in silence. One Thursday morning, I overheard Cabello telling Busy he had to leave for Abuja for 3 days. I felt a strange rush in my chest. This was my chance. I waited until he left the house, suitcase in hand, and then I followed. I kept my distance, staying a few cars behind, my palms sweaty on the steering wheel. He drove straight to the airport. I bought a last-minute ticket on the same flight, my heart pounding the whole way. In Abuja, I stayed far enough so he wouldn't see me. He got into a taxi, and I followed in another. After about 30 minutes, the taxi stopped in front of a quiet neighborhood. I watched as a woman opened the door and threw her arms around him. They kissed. Not a polite, friendly kiss, a real kiss. Then two little boys ran out of the house shouting, "Daddy!" I almost dropped my phone. The boys, they were his mirror image. Same eyes, same smile, same walk. My stomach twisted, but my hands moved on their own, taking photos and videos from the car window. I stayed parked for hours, watching them. He wasn't visiting for a few minutes. He was living there. They had dinner together, played outside, and later I saw him carrying one boy on his back while the other clung to his leg. He looked happy, too happy. I knew this was more than gossip. This was a double life. When the house lights dimmed, I walked quietly to the gate and peered through the small opening. Inside, I could see family photos on the wall. Cabello, the woman, the boys. I took pictures of those too. The next morning, I went to the local records office, pretending to be a distant relative who needed information for family history. It didn't take long for the clerk to hand me a copy of their family registration. There it was in black and white. Cabello listed as the father of both boys. My breath caught in my throat, but I smiled politely, tucking the papers into my bag. By the time I flew back to Lagos, I had everything I needed: photos, videos, official documents, proof that their perfect marriage was a lie. And as the plane touched down, I felt something new inside me: power. For the first time in months, I wasn't the one being whispered about. I held the story now, and I would decide when the world heard it. The night of their anniversary party, Lagos sparkled. The venue was dripping with gold decorations, fresh flowers, and chandeliers that shone like tiny suns. Buzi floated around in a silver gown, smiling like a queen, her arm hooked proudly through Cabello's. Everywhere they went, people stopped to admire them, the perfect couple celebrating 10 perfect years. I watched from my table, sipping slowly, my heart calm but my mind electric. In my bag sat a flash drive. On it was the truth. The hall buzzed with laughter and clinking glasses. Waiters moved like dancers, carrying trays of champagne. Buzi's friends took selfies, posting with hashtags about couple goals. Cabello shook hands and patted shoulders, his smile so convincing that anyone who didn't know better would believe it. I looked at him and thought about those two little boys in Abuja calling him daddy. My fingers tightened around the stem of my glass. When it was time for speeches, Buzi tapped the microphone, her voice dripping with pride as she thanked everyone for coming. Then she called my name. "And now," she said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes, "my dear sister-in-law, Zinli, would like to say a few words." I stood slowly, every step toward the stage feeling heavier and lighter at the same time. I took the mic, my voice steady. "Thank you, Buzi. Thank you, Cabello. 10 years is a long time. And tonight, we are here to celebrate love. But love is not always what it seems." Gasps and murmurs stirred in the room. I gave a small nod toward the projector operator. The lights dimmed. On the giant screen behind me, the first image appeared. Cabello holding one of the boys in Abuja, a cake with "Happy Birthday, Daddy" in front of them. Then came videos. Cabello laughing in the garden, hugging the other woman, helping the boys with homework. Love notes appeared next, written in his handwriting, signed with his name. The room went silent, except for the sound of people's breaths catching. Then came the whispers, growing louder, sharper. I watched Busy's face drain of color, her perfect smile collapsing. Cabello's eyes darted around, searching for a way out. Some guests put their hands over their mouths. Others stared openly, their phones already recording. The footage rolled on: family trips, school events, even the family registration document. Proof that this wasn't rumor, this was reality. When the final image faded, I placed the microphone back on the stand. "Congratulations on 10 years, I said quietly, my voice carrying through the stunned hall. Then I stepped down and walked out, the sound of chaos following me. Outside, the air was cool against my skin. For the first time in months, I felt light. The whispers that once haunted me were gone. Now they would follow someone else, and I didn't need to look back to know they had finally found their real target. Busy didn't wait for the lights to come back on. The moment the last image disappeared from the screen, she grabbed her clutch and stormed out, her silver gown swishing angrily behind her. Her heels clicked against the marble floor, each step faster than the last, until the doors slammed shut. Cabello tried to follow, but the crowd closed in around him. their eyes wide with judgment, their phones still recording. The perfect couple had shattered, and everyone had just witnessed the pieces fall. Inside, the murmurs grew into a storm. People who once whispered about me now turned to each other, shaking their heads at busy. I heard fragments of sentences as I walked past. Can you believe it? All these years. She knew, I'm sure she knew. The pity that had once suffocated me was gone. In its place was something I hadn't felt in a long time. Respect, or maybe fear. Either way, I could breathe again. In the days that followed, the whispers followed her everywhere. At church, women avoided her gaze. In the market, traders exchanged knowing looks when she passed. Even online, the comments had changed. Her carefully curated image was ruined, replaced by videos and screenshots people shared like wildfire. As for me, I didn't gloat. I didn't need to. I had already won the moment I walked out of that hall. This wasn't just revenge. It was freedom. She had taken my dignity once, parading my pain for the world to see. But now, I had taken back more than she ever imagined. And as I walked through Lagos with my head high, I knew one thing for sure. My story was mine again, and no one could take it from me.